The argument had already gone too far when Alpha King Declan Vale rose from his throne. 200 pack leaders filled the great hall of Blackpine Citadel. An alpha from Idaho had his claws half drawn. Another from Colorado was already showing his wolf through burning amber eyes. Betas crowded the aisles, warriors shifted toward hidden blades, and someone called for the royal guard. Declan did not call them. He stepped down from the black stone dais instead. The hall quieted by degrees. He did not need to bare his teeth or let his wolf rise beneath his skin. The weight of his presence reached the crowd around him before his voice did. Kneel. The command struck like a physical blow. Boots slammed against marble. Chairs scraped backward. All at once, alphas, betas, warriors, elders, and counselors dropped to their knees. Serena Vaughn bowed her head with the rest. Even the two men who had been seconds from tearing each other apart sank to the floor under the force of his command. Silence swallowed the hall. Almost. At the far end of the room, beside the doors to the royal archives, a young woman was still standing. Harper Reed held a narrow wooden document box against her chest. Her plain charcoal dress marked her as archive staff. Her dark hair had loosened from its knot. She looked too ordinary and far too terrified to be making a political statement. Yet she remained on her feet. Declan saw her. Then everyone else did. A tremor moved through the kneeling court. Harper's fingers tightened around the box. Her pulse hammered in her ears, but beneath it was another sound, one that had begun the instant Declan spoke. Chains dragging over stone. No one else reacted. Declan crossed the hall toward her. When he stopped in front of her, Harper had to lift her chin to meet his gaze. His expression was unreadable, but the air around him felt charged enough to burn. "Why are you still standing?" Harper opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Behind Declan, dozens of wolves watched her, as though she had stepped willingly onto an execution block. "I asked you a question. I heard you. That wasn't my question." Her eyes flicked past him toward the throne. The sound came again. Scrape. Dreh. Whisper. For one horrifying second, Harper could have sworn there was another voice beneath Declan's command. Not an echo. Something answering him. Her stomach turned cold. "Don't do that again," she whispered. The court went utterly still. Declan's face changed. "Not much. Just enough. You don't give orders to me." Harper swallowed. "I'm not. Then what are you doing?" She looked at the black throne behind him, at the carved wolves curling around its base, and at a faint shadow moving where no shadow should have been. "I'm warning you." A murmur broke through the room, before Declan silenced it with one glance. "You think I need a warning from an Omega archivist?" "No," Harper said, hating the shake in her voice. "I think you need one from whoever can hear what I just heard." The command gathered in him again. Harper felt it before he spoke, pressure building behind her eyes. Around them, the kneeling wolves lowered their heads. "Kneh." A savage growl exploded from the side entrance. Ghost, the king's enormous silver-white wolf, charged into the hall. Harper flinched, but Ghost did not attack her. He threw himself between Harper and Declan, hackles raised, teeth bared. For one impossible heartbeat, Declan stared at his own royal wolf. Then Ghost turned, not toward Harper, toward the throne. The growl deepened until the marble seemed to vibrate beneath their feet. Harper felt the blood drain from her face. She finally understood what the sound had been trying to tell her. Her eyes lifted to Declan's. "Something in this room," she said, "is using your voice." By sunrise, everyone in Blackpine Citadel knew about the Omega who had refused the Alpha King's command. Harper knew because people stopped pretending she was invisible. Servants stared when she crossed the lower corridors. Warriors who had passed her for 2 years without learning her name now stepped aside and watched her like she might suddenly sprout fangs. By the time Harper reached the royal archives, 3 council aides had already found excuses to walk past the door. She hated every second of it. For 2 years, Harper had built a quiet life among dust, leather, and old ink. The archives occupied Blackpine's oldest wing, packed with treaties, blood oath records, land maps, and laws written before most modern territories had names. Harper restored cracked parchment, cataloged sealed documents, and translated symbols nobody important had patience to study. Being overlooked had always been useful. Her mother had taught her that. Never let an alpha know he can't command you. Harper had been 11, the first time those words frightened her, She was 24 now, and they frightened her more. She set the wooden document box from last night on her work table and forced herself to breathe normally. The sound from the great hall still lived in her head, chains dragging over stone. She had heard Alpha commands before. They pressed against the bones, tightened the lungs, made instinct scream to obey. Harper felt the pressure. She simply never had to obey it. Until last night, she had assumed that was the only strange thing about her. A throat cleared behind her. Elder Marcus Bell stood beside the examination table, holding a rolled treaty. "You're late." I was questioned by royal security. "So I heard." Marcus placed the treaty in front of her. "Eastern Border Agreement. Council believes the seal was forged." Harper welcomed the distraction. She pulled on cotton gloves and examined the wax. "Seal is authentic." Marcus frowned. 2 experts called it fake. "They're wrong. The signature is authentic too." "Then what's wrong with it?" Harper angled the parchment toward the window. "The fibers are machine-pressed cotton. Blackpine didn't import this grade until 12 years after the date written here." Marcus stared at her. "You saw that in less than a minute. 40 seconds. A voice from the doorway answered. "Interesting." Harper went still. Declan Vale stood beneath the stone arch with Beta Gideon Cross at his shoulder. Gideon was composed, silver beginning at his temples, his dark suit immaculate. His expression almost seemed kind. "Almost." Declan entered. "Elder Bell, leave us." Marcus bowed and departed. Declan's gaze moved from the treaty to Harper. 2 years in my archives. No disciplinary record. No known family affiliation. No registered wolf. Harper removed her gloves. "I wasn't aware being boring was illegal." Something almost like amusement touched Gideon's mouth. Declan did not smile. "You resisted a direct command from the Alpha King." "I didn't resist it. You remained standing. Because nothing forced me down." Gideon's expression changed. Declan stepped closer. "Explain the difference." Harper knew there was no safe answer. "I can't." "Can't or won't?" "Both." Silence stretched. Gideon spoke quietly. "Your Majesty, an Omega who cannot be compelled by royal authority is a security vulnerability." Harper looked at him. There it was. Not monster, not witch. Vulnerability. A cleaner word for threat. Declan's jaw tightened. "Harper Reed, until I understand what happened in my hall, you will remain under royal custody." 2 guards entered. Harper's stomach dropped. "You're arresting me because your command failed?" "I'm detaining you because someone tampered with my throne. My wolf recognized the danger, and you knew it before anyone else." The guards secured silver restraints around Harper's wrists. Pain bit instantly into her skin. She refused to show it. As they escorted her toward the lower levels, heavy paws followed behind them. "Ghost." At the dungeon entrance, Declan turned. "Ghost, leave." The silver-white wolf stopped. Harper was placed inside the cell. The iron door slammed shut. Ghost looked at his king. Then he crossed the corridor, lowered himself in front of Harper's cell, and rested his massive head on his paws. Declan's eyes darkened. "Ghost." The wolf did not move. For the second time in less than 12 hours, something in Blackpine had refused the Alpha King. Harper stared through the bars at Ghost as a realization settled beneath her fear. The wolf was not protecting her from Declan. He was protecting his king from whatever had awakened inside Blackpine and somehow believed Harper could stop it. The dungeon beneath Blackpine Citadel had been designed for wolves stronger than Harper Reed. Silver-lined bars reinforced every cell. Iron rings were bolted into the walls. The air carried the stale scent of stone, metal, and old fear, but Harper barely noticed any of it. The restraints around her wrists burned too sharply. Ghost still lay outside her cell. He had not moved for nearly an hour. Harper sat on the narrow cot, watching the enormous silver-white wolf breathe. Every few minutes, Ghost opened one pale eye, as if checking that she was still there. Footsteps finally echoed down the corridor. Ghost lifted his head. Declan appeared alone. He stopped several feet from the cell and looked first at his wolf, then at Harper. "Open it." The guard stationed at the stairwell unlocked the door and withdrew. Declan stepped inside. Harper remained seated. He glanced at the silver around her wrists. "You can remove those. They told me they were your orders." "They were." Harper looked up. "Then I suppose we've discovered another command you're allowed to change." His expression hardened. Careful. Why? Will you tell me to kneel? Something flickered in his eyes. Not anger this time. Memory. Declan crossed the cell and released the restraints himself. Harper pulled her hands back immediately. Red burns circled both wrists. His chaza lingered on them. I didn't know silver affected you that badly. I'm an Omega. Silver affects all of us. You don't behave like any Omega I've met. That sounds like your problem. Declan exhaled slowly, then leaned against the opposite wall. What are you? Harper almost laughed. Not because the question was funny, because it was the wrong one. I'm the person who told you not to use that command again. That isn't an answer. It's the only one that matters right now. Declan's aura pressed outward. Not a command. A warning. Harper felt the familiar weight settle across her shoulders, but her body remained her own. You stood in my court while 200 wolves obeyed me, he said. You heard something no one else heard. My royal wolf chose to guard your cell instead of answering me. Give me one reason I shouldn't assume you caused it. Because if I caused it, I wouldn't have warned you. You could be manipulating me. You could be paranoid. I'm a king. Paranoia keeps people alive. Harper's expression changed. That may be the saddest thing you've said so far. Declan pushed away from the wall. Describe what you heard. Harper hesitated. The sound returned in memory. Your normal command has weight. Weight? It feels like thunder hitting the inside of my chest. Last night was different. There was something beneath it. What? Chen. Declan stared at her. Chains? Dragging over stone. He said nothing. Harper continued. And another voice. His face went still. What did it say? I couldn't understand the words. Tre. I already have. Declan stepped closer. Harper. I said I don't know. The Alpha King stopped only a few feet away. His presence filled the cell, but Harper forced herself to hold his gaze. You're afraid of something. Yes. Me? No. That answer seemed to bother him more. What then? Harper looked toward the corridor. Whatever made Ghost growl at your throne. For the first time since entering the cell, Declan glanced at his wolf. Ghost was standing now, listening. A sudden shout erupted from the stairwell. Then something heavy hit the floor. Declan turned instantly. A guard rushed into view. Your Majesty, you need to come upstairs. What happened? Alpha Mercer collapsed in the eastern corridor. Declan's expression sharpened. He was in the court last night. Yes. Harper stood. Something cold moved through her stomach. Was he one of the men who resisted before you gave the command? The guard looked at her, startled. Yes. Declan noticed. Why does that matter? Harper was already moving toward the cell door. Take me to him. Declan blocked her path. You're still a prisoner. Then bring your prisoner. Minutes later, they reached the eastern corridor. Alpha Mercer lay convulsing on the floor, while two healers struggled to hold him still. His face had gone gray. Blood ran from his nose and the corners of his eyes. But that was not what stopped Harper. It was his voice. He repeated the same phrase over and over. Obey the king. Declan crouched beside him. Mercer. Obey the king. I'm not commanding you. Obey the king. Mercer's body arched violently. His claws tried to emerge, then retracted beneath the skin, as though his wolf could no longer remember how to shift. Harper heard it again. Very faintly. Chains dragging over stone. She stepped backward. Declan looked at her. What? Harper's eyes lifted to his. Your command didn't end when you stopped speaking. Alpha Mercer survived the night, but whatever had entered his mind did not leave with the fever. By morning, 3 more wolves from the Great Hall had developed the same symptoms. Tremors, failed shifts, and the compulsive whisper that followed them even in sleep. Obey the king. Declan sealed the eastern wing. Harper expected to be returned to the dungeon. Instead, he brought her to the throne room. It was empty now. Without the court, the Great Hall felt larger and colder. Pale winter light stretched across black marble toward the throne. Ghost entered first. The royal wolf stopped halfway across the room. His ears flattened. Harper heard the chains. Faint. Scrape. Drau. Her skin tightened. Declan watched her face. You hear it now? Yes. I hear nothing. That doesn't make it imaginary. I didn't say it did. Harper glanced at him. That was new. Declan looked less like a king this morning, and more like a man who had not slept. "Where do we start?" he asked. Harper looked toward the throne. "With the thing your wolf hates." For the next hour, Declan searched the dais like a soldier, while Harper studied tool marks, dust lines, repairs, and tiny inconsistencies everyone else had stopped seeing. "You're looking at scratches," Declan said. "I'm looking at age. Stone doesn't age enough to tell you who cursed it." "No, but repairs do." Harper crouched beside the left base of the throne. One section was removed. Declan knelt beside her. "When?" "Not recently. That narrows it down to several centuries." She gave him a flat look. "You're very helpful when you're impatient. You're very calm for a prisoner investigating treason. I restore documents for a living. This is the most interesting morning I've had in years." Something close to a laugh escaped him before he stopped it. Harper noticed. So did Ghost. The wolf huffed. "Even he thinks you're difficult," Declan said. "No, he thinks you're losing an argument." Harper ran her fingertips over the carved stone. Then she felt it. A groove too smooth to be natural. Light. Declan handed her a small lantern. She angled it beneath the throne. There, cut into the underside of the black stone, was a symbol no larger than a coin. 3 interlocking circles crossed by a vertical line. Harper's stomach dropped. "Don't touch it." Declan's hand stopped inches away. "You recognize it?" "Not exactly." She leaned closer. The chains in her head grew louder. "This isn't a curse placed on you." "Comforting." "It should be." "Why?" "Because whoever made this didn't need access to your body." Declan's expression darkened. Harper pointed at the sigil. "It's a binding mark. Old. Very old. It doesn't create power. It catches it." "Catches what?" "Your command." Silence. Harper stood. "Every time you compel someone in this room, part of that force is being stored." Declan looked at the throne. "And then released later? Maybe. Into Mercer. Maybe into everyone." The answer landed hard. Declan turned toward the doors. "Gideon needs to see this." "Wait." He looked back. "If whoever planted this has access to the palace, telling more people before we understand it is a mistake. Gideon is my beta. That makes him important. It doesn't make him invisible." Declan's eyes narrowed. "You suspect him?" "I suspect access." "That wasn't my question." "I know." For several seconds, neither moved. Then Declan crossed his arms. "What would you do?" Harper blinked. It was the first time he had asked her instead of ordering her. "Search the archives for this symbol." "Restricted records too?" "Especially those." Declan nodded once. "Do it." They worked until afternoon. Harper pulled sealed volumes while Declan opened royal locks and ignored officials demanding his attention. Near sunset, Harper found the symbol. It appeared in a damaged legal codex from the reign of Declan's father. Her pulse accelerated. "Here." Declan came beside her. The page had been scraped nearly clean, but the binding mark remained visible beneath a section titled Royal Compliance Protocols. Someone had tried to erase the rest. Harper held the page toward the lamp. "There's writing under the abrasion." Declan leaned closer. "How much?" "Enough." She read the surviving fragment twice. Then a third time. Her mouth went dry. Declan saw it. "What?" Harper looked up. "This wasn't designed to assassinate you." "What was it designed to do?" She turned the page toward him. "To make your commands permanent." Declan stared at the words. Harper continued quietly. "Someone isn't trying to kill the Alpha King." The chains whispered again somewhere beneath Blackpine. "They're trying to turn him into a weapon." Before Declan could answer, Harper noticed a handwritten notation in the margin. 12 locations, all inside the Citadel. The throne room was only one of them. By midnight, 6 of the 12 marked locations had been found. 1 beneath the throne, 2 inside military briefing rooms, 1 carved behind the council chamber fireplace, another hidden beneath the floor of the Eastern Guard barracks. The 6th was inside the Royal Archives. Harper stood beneath the open stone panel, while Gideon Cross studied the binding sigil cut into the wall behind her desk. No one spoke for several seconds. That silence frightened her more than accusation would have. Declan stood near the doorway with 3 royal guards behind him. His expression had become unreadable again, the careful mask of the Alpha King replacing the man who had spent the afternoon searching beside her. Gideon finally turned. "This section requires archival clearance." Harper folded her arms. So do half the restricted rooms in Blackpine. But this room is assigned to you. I didn't carve it. Gideon's voice remained calm. I didn't say you did. Harper looked at Declan. He had not defended her. Something cold settled in her chest. Gideon continued. The sigil was concealed behind a restoration cabinet installed 14 months ago. Harper frowned. I wasn't responsible for that renovation. No, but records show you signed the access ledger. I sign dozens of access ledgers every week. Gideon handed Declan a thin folder. Every discovered location connects to someone with high-level access. Harper has entered 9 of the 12 areas within the last year. Declan opened the folder. Harper stared at him. You know why? His eyes lifted. Explain it. I work in the archives. I deliver sealed documents to council rooms. I restore military maps. I catalog historical objects in the throne chamber. Access is my job. Gideon nodded sympathetically. That is precisely why someone in her position would be useful. Harper's attention snapped toward him. You've already decided. I'm trying to protect the king. So am I. Then you should understand why we cannot ignore evidence. Harper turned back to Declan. Yesterday he had asked what she would do. He had trusted her judgment enough to open restricted royal records. Now fear had entered the room, and she could see exactly what it was doing to him. Declan. Gideon's eyebrows rose slightly at the use of the king's name. Harper ignored him. You know this doesn't make sense. Declan closed the folder. I know someone inside Blackpine built a network around my command. And I'm the person who found it. You're also the only person here who claims to hear it. The words struck harder than she expected. Harper went still. That's what you think? I think I don't have the luxury of guessing. No, you have the luxury of choosing who to distrust. His jaw tightened. Restrain her. The guards moved. For 1 second, Harper genuinely believed she had misheard him. Then silver closed around her wrists. Pain flashed through her arms. She did not fight. She only looked at Declan. Something in his face shifted when he saw the burns begin almost immediately. Harper forced herself not to look away. Now I know. Declan's voice lowered. Know what? What you choose when you're afraid. The guards led her from the archives. Behind her, Declan said nothing. Harper was halfway down the western corridor when the first bell rang. Boom. The entire citadel shuddered. Every wolf in the hallway froze. Harper stopped, too. Not because the bell commanded her, because the chains inside her skull screamed. The second bell rang. Boom. A guard beside Harper dropped to one knee. Another clutched his head. From somewhere above came the sound of wolves howling in panic. Harper's heart slammed against her ribs. The ceremonial bell. She had seen the symbol in the damaged codex. 3 rings. 3 activations. 3. No. Harper spun toward the guards. Get these cuffs off. Neither answered. Their eyes were glazing. A third toll began to build high above them as the ancient bell mechanism groaned into motion. Harper ran. The guards were too disoriented to stop her. She sprinted toward the bell tower stairs, silver tearing into her wrists with every movement. She could have taken the eastern passage. The outer gate was less than 100 yards away. She could have escaped. Instead, she climbed. By the time Harper reached the mechanism chamber, blood was running down both hands. The great bronze hammer was already swinging toward the bell. A binding sigil covered its iron support. Harper understood instantly. The third strike would complete the network. She threw herself forward. The silver restraints hit the carved symbol. Pain exploded through her body. Harper screamed but held on. The sigil cracked. The hammer stopped inches from the bell. Silence crashed over Blackpine. Harper collapsed beside the broken mechanism. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. Declan reached her first. His eyes dropped to the shattered sigil, then to the blood running from her wrists. Harper looked up at him through the pain. You arrested the wrong person. This time, Declan had no answer. Harper woke in the Royal Medical Wing with both wrists wrapped in white bandages. For several seconds, she did not remember why. Then the bell returned to her mind. The hammer, the sigil, Declan's face when he realized she had run toward danger instead of away from him. She opened her eyes fully. Declan stood beside the window. He had changed clothes, but he looked worse than he had in the dungeon. His sleeves were rolled to his forearms. There was dried blood on one hand. Harper pushed herself upright. How many? He turned. Wolves affected? She nodded. 47. Collapsed. No deaths. And Mercer? Stable. Harper looked down at the bandages. The network? Dormant. Dormant isn't destroyed. I know. Silence settled between them. Declan crossed the room but stopped several feet from the bed. I was wrong. Harper looked at him. The Alpha King did not soften the words. I arrested the person trying to save my kingdom. Yes. His jaw tightened slightly. I expected you to make that more difficult. You want forgiveness because you admitted you were wrong? No. Good. He accepted that without argument. That surprised her. There is a restricted council gathering in 20 minutes, he said. Gideon, 3 elders, Serena Vaughn, and the head of royal security. Harper frowned. Why Serena? Because her pack controls the eastern military corridor. If someone activates those sigils during an attack, I need her army. He paused. And because you were right, access matters more than rank. Harper studied him. What do you want from me? The truth. Her stomach tightened. About the sigils? About you. There it was. Harper looked toward the mountains beyond the window. For most of her life, survival had depended on silence. But silence had nearly allowed Blackpine to fall. My mother told me never to let an alpha know he couldn't command me. Declan said nothing. She wasn't teaching me rebellion. She was teaching me how to stay alive. 20 minutes later, Harper stood before the restricted council with Ghost at her side. No restraints. That mattered. Declan remained at the head of the table, but he did not sit on the raised chair behind him. Harper noticed that too. She placed an old leather-bound volume on the table. I found this 3 years before I came to Blackpine. My mother hid it. Elder Marcus opened the cover. His face changed immediately. The Witness Codex. Gideon leaned forward. I thought every copy had been destroyed. Harper looked at him. So did the people who destroyed them. She opened to a page marked with a black ribbon. Before Alpha Kings ruled through centralized command, there was another office beside the crown. Serena read the heading. Witness of the Crown. Harper nodded. They weren't advisors, they weren't warriors, they didn't command armies. Declan watched her carefully. What did they do? They said no. No one spoke. Harper continued. The old kings understood something modern alphas forgot. No ruler should possess absolute command without someone capable of resisting it. Marcus looked from the book to Harper. The Unbound. The room shifted. Gideon's expression remained controlled. Serena's did not. You're one of them? The last one I know of. Declan stepped closer. Your bloodline is immune to Alpha Command. Not immune to the pressure. I feel everything everyone else feels. But you choose whether to obey. Yes. Declan looked at her as if seeing her again for the first time. Harper turned another page. Names filled it. Most had a single word written beside them. Deceased. Some had dates. One date appeared over and over. 18 years ago. Declan saw it. What happened that year? Harper's voice changed. My family was hunted. The room became very still. The witness houses were accused of conspiring against the crown. Royal soldiers were sent to eliminate them. Declan looked at the page. Under whose authority? Harper slid a sealed order across the table. He recognized the crest before he touched it. His father's. Declan went motionless. My mother was on that list, Harper said. For the first time, the Alpha King looked shaken. She survived long enough to hide me. She died 4 years later, from wounds that never healed properly. Declan's eyes lifted. You've known this entire time. Yes. And you still came here. I came because Blackpine keeps the oldest records in North America. I wanted to know why my family died. Declan looked at the royal order again. I didn't know. I know. His expression tightened. Harper did not rescue him from what came next. But you inherited the throne that did. The words landed harder than accusation. Gideon finally spoke. Your Majesty, this document may explain motive, but it does not prove your father ordered the massacre. Harper looked toward him. I agree. Declan frowned. Harper removed a second sheet from the codex. I checked the authorization sequence. The royal command had been issued under Declan's father's seal, but beneath it was a handwritten verification code. Harper had spent years learning the signatures of officers who served during that reign. She pushed the page toward Declan. Your father was investigating the same binding network before my family was attacked. Marcus inhaled sharply. Harper pointed to the final line. The massacre order may have been issued in his name without his knowledge. Declan stared at the verification mark. Slowly, the color drained from his face. Harper already knew the name attached to it. She had checked 3 times before entering the room. The young officer who had authenticated the destruction of the witness houses had risen through the ranks faster than anyone in Blackpine history. He had eventually become Beta. Declan looked across the table, at the man who had stood beside him for nearly 20 years. The signature belonged to Gideon Cross. No one moved for several seconds after Harper placed the document on the table. Gideon Cross was the first to speak. That signature is mine. Declan's eyes remained fixed on him. Serena looked between the 2 men. You're admitting it? I authenticated hundreds of operations under King Rowan, Gideon said calmly. I was 22 years old. A junior officer followed orders placed before him. Harper watched him carefully. Too calm. Not defensive enough. Declan picked up the page. You verified the destruction of the witness houses. I verified an order bearing your father's seal. You never told me. I had no reason to believe it mattered. Harper leaned forward. My mother might disagree. Gideon's eyes shifted toward her. For the first time, warmth disappeared from them. I was not the one who killed your mother. No, you just helped make sure the soldiers found her. Declan stepped between them, before the tension sharpened further. Enough. The word carried authority, but not command. Harper noticed. So did Gideon. Declan turned toward his Beta. I want every record connected to that operation brought to me. Every deployment order, every name, every sealed report. Of course. And until I know what happened, you will not access the throne room, military command chambers, or the archives without escort. That landed. Gideon stared at him. After 20 years of trust, Declan had just placed restrictions on the man who had helped raise him. A faint hurt entered Gideon's expression. You believe her? Declan looked at Harper. No. Harper's stomach tightened. Then Declan continued. I believe the evidence. Gideon bowed his head once. As you should. He left without another word. Harper watched the door close behind him. Serena exhaled. That was either the reaction of an innocent man who has just been insulted beyond measure or the most disciplined liar I have ever seen. Both are possible, Harper said. Declan looked at the damaged witness codex. What else aren't you telling me? Harper did not answer immediately. There was one truth she had deliberately kept buried. Not because she distrusted him, because speaking it made the danger real. The unbound weren't created only to resist commands. Marcus stiffened. What do you mean? Harper opened the codex to a section written in older script. We can break them. Declan's attention sharpened. You could have stopped what happened to Mercer. No. The answer came too quickly. Harper forced herself to slow down. Not safely. She touched the bandage around her wrist. The bell mechanism was different. I broke the sigil before the command finished spreading. Once a command enters a wolf deeply enough, breaking it means pulling that influence somewhere else. Declan understood before anyone spoke. Into you. Harper nodded. Serena's expression changed. What happens then? Harper looked away. My mother called it carrying the chain. She had been 12 the first time she saw her mother do it. A rogue Alpha had commanded a frightened boy to walk into a frozen river. Her mother had touched the child, whispered something Harper never heard, and collapsed. For 3 days afterward, she had spoken with someone else's voice. The command moves through the nervous system, Harper said. The body fights it. So does the wolf. Declan's jaw hardened. What does it cost? Depends on the command. Harper. She met his eyes. Every time an unbound breaks one, the connection to our own wolf weakens. Silence. My wolf has barely spoken to me since I was 14. Declan stared at her. You've been losing her. Yes. And if you keep doing this? Harper said nothing. That was answer enough. Declan's voice dropped. No. She frowned. No what? You are done touching those sigils. Serena looked at him. Declan. No. We find another way. Harper stood. You don't know if there is another way. Then we find one. And if the network activates tomorrow, I'll handle it. With the command it's designed to corrupt? His expression darkened. I said no. Harper stared at him. There it was again. The same instinct wearing kinder clothes. Control disguised as protection. You still don't understand. I understand that using this ability could destroy your wolf, and I understand it's mine. Declan stepped closer. I am not letting you sacrifice yourself for my kingdom. You don't get to decide that. I am the king. And that sentence is exactly the problem. The room went silent. Harper's voice softened, but the anger remained. You arrested me when you were afraid I was dangerous. Now you're trying to lock me away because you're afraid I might get hurt. Different reason, same choice. Declan looked as if she had struck him. Harper continued. Protection isn't taking someone's decision away and calling it love. The final word escaped before she could stop it. Neither of them moved. Serena quietly collected the papers. Marcus. The elder understood. They left. Suddenly, the enormous council chamber felt very small. Declan looked at Harper. I don't know how to do this. Herr Anger faltered. Do what? Trust someone enough to let them make a choice that could take them away from me. The honesty in his voice disarmed her. Harper swallowed. What are you afraid of? Betrayal. No hesitation. My father trusted people who smiled at his table. Then he died, surrounded by enemies wearing his colors. Harper looked down at her bandaged wrists. My greatest fear isn't dying. What is it? Having someone decide what happens to me because they think they know better. Declan stepped closer, slowly this time. Their hands almost touched. The space between them changed. Harper felt the strange pull that had been building since the Great Hall, warm and dangerous beneath her ribs. Declan leaned toward her. She wanted to close the distance. Instead, she placed a hand against his chest. He stopped immediately. If your wolf wants me, she whispered, that's his decision. His breathing slowed. Harper looked into his eyes. I need to know yours. Before Declan could answer, a howl tore through Blackpine. Not Ghost. Dozens of wolves. Then the chains returned inside Harper's head, louder than ever. The first scream came from the corridor outside the council chamber. Harper turned toward the doors just as they burst open. A royal guard staggered inside, one hand pressed to his temple. His eyes were unfocused. Your Majesty. Declan moved toward him. The guard dropped to his knees, then drew his knife. Not at Declan. At Harper. Ghost hit him before the blade cleared its sheath. The silver-white wolf slammed the man against the wall without biting him, pinning him beneath one enormous paw. The guard thrashed like a trapped animal. Kill the unbound, he gasped. Harper went cold. Another voice echoed from the corridor. Then another. Kill the unbound. Boots pounded through Blackpine. Declan pulled Harper behind him as 3 warriors appeared at the doorway. All wore the royal crest. All were men. Harper had seen guarding the citadel for months. All 3 looked terrified. One was crying. Their bodies moved anyway. Stop, Declan shouted. Nothing happened. He tried again, letting royal power enter his voice. Stand down. The command rolled through the corridor. For half a second, the warriors froze. Then the chains inside Harper's skull shrieked. Their heads snapped upward. Kill the unbound. Declan's face changed. My command strengthened it. Harper grabbed his arm. Don't use it again. The 3 warriors charged. Ghost met the first. Declan struck the second hard enough to send him crashing into a pillar. Harper ducked beneath the third man's grasp and drove her elbow into his ribs. They were not fighting enemies. That made everything worse. Every warrior resisted between attacks. Muscles trembled, faces twisted with horror. Their minds were awake. Their bodies were enslaved. Declan refused to kill them. Move! He pulled Harper into the passage. Blackpine had become chaos. Wolves stumbled through the halls, fighting invisible restraints. Some clawed at walls. Others threw themselves to the floor rather than obey commands, forcing them toward Harper. From the lower courtyard came a single, amplified voice. Declan. Declan stopped. Harper knew that voice. Gideon. They reached the upper gallery overlooking the Great Hall. Below them stood Gideon Cross. The throne room was filled with kneeling wolves. Not voluntary kneeling. Their bodies were locked in place. The 12 binding sigils glowed faintly across pillars, floors, and walls, connected by thin black lines Harper had never seen before. Gideon looked up. I hoped we had more time. Declan gripped the railing. You? No accusation. Just disbelief. Gideon's expression almost looked sorrowful. I tried to protect you from this. You murdered the witness houses. I helped end a threat. Harper stepped beside Declan. My mother was a threat? Your bloodline existed to weaken the crown. It existed to stop men like you. Gideon smiled faintly. That is what your mother said. The words hit Harper like ice. You knew her. I knew all of them. Declan's hands curled into fists. Why? Gideon looked around the hall. Because I watched kingdoms destroy themselves every time wolves were allowed to mistake freedom for wisdom. His voice remained calm. Your father believed loyalty could be earned. Do you remember what that earned him? Declan said nothing. A knife in his ribs from men who had eaten at his table. Gideon's gaze hardened. I carried you out of that room. I watched you kneel in your father's blood while traitors fought over the crown. You built this network. I perfected it. Harper stared at the glowing lines. For 18 years, yes. Gideon looked at Declan almost tenderly. I never wanted your throne. I wanted to make certain no one could ever take it from you. Declan's voice was low. By turning everyone into slaves. By ending rebellion. That is slavery. That is peace. The chains suddenly tightened inside Harper's skull. She gasped. Gideon's attention shifted to her. You are the flaw in the system. Declan stepped in front of her. Don't. Gideon raised one hand. I'm sorry. The network pulsed. Every sigil ignited. Declan jerked violently. His back arched as though something had driven a blade through his spine. Declan. Harper caught his arm. He ripped away from her. Not by choice. His eyes burned gold. His wolf surged beneath his skin. Harper heard the command enter him. Not through his ears. Through the crown itself. Gideon spoke. Kill the unbound. Declan turned toward Harper. No. The word tore from him. His body moved anyway. He seized Harper by the throat and drove her backward against the stone wall. Ghost lunged. Declan roared, forcing his own wolf back from attacking the king. Harper clawed at Declan's wrist. His grip tightened. Tears of rage stood in his eyes. He was fully conscious. That was the horror of it. Run, he managed. Harper could feel her heartbeat weakening beneath his hand. She knew how to break the command. She also knew what it would cost. If she pulled this much corrupted power into herself, the fragile thread connecting her to her wolf might snap forever. Declan's fingers tightened again. Run. Harper stopped struggling. She placed one bandaged hand flat against his chest, met his terrified eyes, and whispered the one word no Alpha had ever been able to take from her. No. Harper's palm pressed against Declan's chest. For one terrible second, nothing happened. His hand remained locked around her throat. His golden eyes burned with the force of Gideon's command, but behind that light Harper could still see him fighting. Not the Alpha King. Declan, the man who had admitted he did not know how to trust someone enough to let them choose. Look at me, Harper whispered. His grip tightened. Pain flashed through her neck. Declan. The chains roared inside her skull. Kill the unbound. The command was everywhere now, threaded through his heartbeat, his wolf, the sigils beneath Blackpine. Harper closed her eyes. She could pull it out. She could carry the chain, and lose the last fragile part of herself that still answered when she reached inward for her wolf. Her mother's warning came back to her. Never let an Alpha know he can't command you. But this was no longer about hiding. Harper opened her eyes. Choose. Declan shook violently. Gideon's voice echoed from below. He cannot. Harper ignored him. Declan, choose me. His fingers trembled. Not because I'm unbound. Not because Ghost trusts me. Not because your wolf wants me. His breath came ragged. Choose what you do next. Something changed in his eyes. For a heartbeat, the gold faded. Then the corrupted command slammed through him again. Declan snarled and drove Harper harder against the wall. She gasped. There was no more time. Harper reached inward. Past fear. Past pain. Past the silence where her wolf had lived for years. She found the chain wrapped around Declan's mind. And pulled. Agony tore through her. The command ripped free, like burning wire being dragged through her nerves. Harper screamed, as Gideon's words entered her instead. Kill the unbound. Her knees buckled. Declan released her instantly. He caught her before she hit the floor. Harper. The golden light vanished from his eyes. The command was gone, but inside Harper, something else disappeared with it. She reached for her wolf. Nothing answered. Not the faint warmth she had known since childhood. Not the distant breathing. Nothing. An empty silence opened inside her. Harper went still. Declan saw her face. What happened? She could barely form the words. I can't hear her. His expression broke. Your wolf? Harper nodded once. Gone. Maybe temporarily, maybe forever. There was no time to grieve. A roar rose from the great hall below. Gideon had realized Declan was free. The network pulsed again. Dozens of wolves twisted against commands embedded inside them. Declan looked over the railing. Then instinct took over. His chest expanded. Royal power gathered in his voice. Harper grabbed his wrist. No. He froze. If you command them, the network will take it. His jaw clenched. Then how do I stop this? Harper looked at the wolves below. Some were restrained by invisible force. Others were still free. Warriors. Servants. Betas. Serena stood near the western entrance with blood on her sleeve, holding back 2 controlled guards without killing either of them. Ghost paced below, snarling at anyone who approached the stairs. Harper looked at Declan. You don't stop it alone. He understood, and hated the answer. For his entire life, leadership had meant control. Now the weapon that had made him king was the one thing he could not use. Declan descended into the great hall. Harper followed more slowly. The free wolves gathered when they saw him. Their faces were frightened, waiting for an order. Declan stood before them. His voice, when he spoke, held no supernatural force. I will not command you. Confusion moved through the room. A warrior stared at him. Your Majesty? Gideon can corrupt my Alpha command. If I use it, I give him another weapon. Declan looked across the wolves who were still able to choose. So I am not ordering anyone to follow me. Silence. Harper watched him. This was harder for him than any battle. Declan continued. Blackpine is under attack from within. Some of our people are trapped inside their own bodies. I intend to end it. He looked toward the glowing throne. But I will not force one more wolf to bleed for my crown. Gideon laughed from the dais. Listen to yourself, begging subjects for loyalty. Declan ignored him. If you believe I am still your king. He stopped. Not because he lacked words, because the next ones mattered. Walk with me. No one moved. Harper's chest tightened. Gideon smiled. Then one warrior stepped forward. A scarred beta from the northern border. He crossed his fist over his heart. No magic. No command. Choice. Serena moved next. She wiped blood from her mouth and joined Declan. You're still arrogant, she said. Declan glanced at her. I know, but at least now you're asking. She stood beside him. Another wolf stepped forward. Then another. A kitchen worker. 2 guards. Elda Marcus. More followed. Within seconds, dozens stood behind Declan. Then nearly 100. Ghost walked through them and stopped at Harper's side. Declan looked back at the people who had chosen him. Not one was kneeling. For the first time since becoming Alpha King, he was leading an army he had no power to compel. Gideon's expression finally changed. You think this proves something? Declan faced him. Yes. What? Declan looked at Harper. Then at the wolves standing freely behind him. That you spent 18 years building a weapon because you never understood the difference between obedience and loyalty. The sigils flared violently. Black lines raced across the marble toward the throne. Harper felt the remaining network awaken all at once. She stared at the pattern. Then she saw it. Every line converged beneath the crown seal carved into the base of the throne. The commands were not powered by Blackpine. They were powered by the crown itself. Harper stepped toward Declan. I know how to destroy it. Hope flashed across his face. Then he saw hers. What's the cost? Harper looked at the crown seal. If I break that, she swallowed. You may never be able to command another wolf again. Declan stared at the crown seal as though Harper had just asked him to tear out his own heart. Around them, Blackpine shook beneath the strain of the command network. The 12 sigils burned brighter black veins of energy spreading across the marble floor. Wolves trapped under Gideon's influence trembled on their knees, fighting commands they could not escape. Harper stepped closer to the throne. "The seal is the anchor," she said. "Every command you've given through the crown has passed through it." Declan followed her gaze. "If you destroy it, the network dies." "Yes, and so does my Alpha command." Harper hesitated. "I don't know if it will disappear completely, but the royal amplification will." Gideon laughed from the dais. "You hear her, Declan?" His calm mask was gone now. For the first time, Harper saw desperation. "She is asking you to cripple the crown." Declan said nothing. Gideon spread his arms toward the kneeling wolves. "Without command, how long do you think this kingdom survives? A year? 5? Until the next ambitious Alpha decides your kindness makes you weak?" Serena stepped forward. "Funny. You keep calling this peace while everyone around you is bleeding." Gideon ignored her. His eyes remained locked on Declan. "I watched your father die because he trusted choice." Declan's jaw tightened. "You watched him die because you betrayed him. I saved you. You built a cage around me. I built a kingdom no one could take from you." Harper heard the chains rising again. The network was preparing another pulse. She looked at Declan. "We're running out of time." He stared at the throne. That black stone had belonged to his father and his grandfather. It represented everything he had spent his adult life protecting. Harper could see the war inside him, so she did something Gideon never would. She did not tell him what to choose. "If we destroy it," Harper said quietly, "it has to be your decision." Declan looked at her. "You could do it without asking." "Yes." "Why don't you?" "Because then I'd be doing exactly what he did." Gideon's expression darkened. Declan looked across the great hall, at the wolves standing behind him by choice, at the wolves kneeling against their will, at Ghost, at Harper. Then he looked back at the throne. "Do it." Gideon went still. "Declan." The Alpha King did not look at him. "Destroy it." Harper moved. The instant she stepped onto the dais, Gideon lunged. Serena intercepted him. They collided hard against the side of the throne. Gideon threw her aside and reached for Harper. Declan caught him. The two men crashed into the marble floor. No shifting, no Alpha command. Just strength, rage, and 20 years of betrayal. Harper dropped beside the crown seal. The symbol was burning now. She pressed both hands against the carved stone. Pain shot through her arms. Inside her mind, the chains screamed. "Obey. Submit. Kneel." Harper gritted her teeth. "No." The seal resisted. Black energy crawled across her hands. Her empty connection to her wolf remained silent. For one moment, fear almost stopped her. Then Ghost howled. The sound cut through everything. Not a command, a call. Harper pushed harder. A crack split the crown seal. Every wolf in the room screamed. Declan pinned Gideon against the floor. "What did you do?" Gideon struggled beneath him. "I gave you order. You gave me fear." The second crack thundered through the hall. The throne split down the center. Gideon's face twisted in panic. "Without command, they won't obey you." Declan looked at the wolves who had chosen to stand behind him. Then they shouldn't. Harper drove both hands into the broken seal. It shattered. The effect was instant. The black lines vanished. Every binding sigil went dark. The kneeling wolves collapsed forward, then slowly began lifting their heads. Their eyes cleared. The chains disappeared from Harper's mind. For the first time since entering Blackpine, there was complete silence inside her. She swayed. Declan released Gideon and caught Harper before she fell. Behind them, Gideon staggered to his feet. He looked around at the freed royal guard. "Arrest him." No one moved. His face drained of color. "Arrest the king." Still nothing. Gideon turned toward Declan. "Command them." Declan held Harper upright. He did not even look at the shattered throne. "I don't need to." Two royal guards stepped forward. Voluntarily, they seized Gideon. For the first time in 18 years, the man who had built his life around controlling everyone else had no control at all.